Hi, I'm Heidi. I'm a mom of four, and I have recovered from my addiction to being an angry, yelling mom. Today, I'd like to tell my story as I used to be a mom who yelled all the time, and now it is something that I do not do hardly ever at all. And it's been a really big change. Now, maybe you are in this boat, but I came from a family of yellers. Everybody yelled. My mom always yelled. My grandmother always yelled. Like aunts always yelled. Everybody just always yelled. And so I just, thought it was like a thing you did. And so I was a mom who yelled frequently. I started to notice that I yelled all the time. It was just how I spoke. Everything was very kind of frustrated sounding. My tone was usually one of, almost like a nagging sound. It was awful, but I yelled all the time. And when our third child was small, it really started to bother me how much time I spent yelling, how the words coming out of my mouth always just had this negative tone and impact, how my kids didn't even seem to respond when I yelled because I yelled so often that honestly, it just sounded normal to them. And that really started to bother me. And so the more I reflected on how much this bothered me, how embarrassed it truly left me feeling that when my kids would grow up one day and reflect back on their childhood, they would think of me yelling and just how that always sounded. And so the more I thought about that, the more it really bothered me. And I truly did decide in the depth of my soul, I'm not doing this anymore. I am not going to be a mom that yells. And I really started reflecting on why. Why am I yelling so much? What am I even yelling about? And so these are the things that I did, what I really took a real cold, hard look at and the impact that I saw from it. The first thing I did was I ordered myself, I just hopped on Amazon. I got a very cheap set of stackable rings. I honestly actually even still have a few of them, but I believe there was like 4 or 5, and I got them kind of big so I could put them on my thumbs. And I said, okay, I'm gonna start off every day with all the rings on this thumb. And every time I catch myself yelling, I'm gonna switch a ring over to really give myself a visible marker in front of me to go, wow, how much am I doing this? And so I got them in, put them all on my finger, and I was like, all right. I was quite amazed at the end of day 1 that I had only moved over like 1 or 2 rings. The simple act of just being intentional, of having that physical reminder in front of me of, ooh, what am I doing? That was a really big key factor to help me to start being more alert and aware of the very words coming out of my own mouth. Just that simple reminder of going, hey, if I raise my voice and yell, I gotta switch a ring over. That accountability I had honestly just to myself was such a huge impact. And then it really caused me to start becoming aware, which I feel like seems really silly to say, but it's the God honest truth. I was so used to just spouting out whatever. I wasn't being aware of my very own words. I wasn't even soaking in the depth of the impact they were having on my children, on my spouse, on just those around me. And I've talked very openly with my kids about this in the years since. And we've talked about how much of a difference this made in their lives, even already. And so I really started to notice and go, because I was being aware, right, with the rings on my finger, I didn't want to switch them over. I started going, what am I getting so upset about, right? If I notice myself like, ooh, I want to yell right now about this, I kind of, because I didn't want to switch the ring over, I made myself think and go, what am I so upset about? Well, they messed this up, or they didn't do this, or, whatever the reason might have been. And I started to really reflect and hold a mirror up in front of myself and go, why am I so worked up over that? Oh, because it won't look right, or I just tidied it, or they're supposed to be doing this, or whatever the case may be. But it really caused me to hit pause in the moment instead of just spouting out with anger and frustration and just fussing at them. It really caused me to pause and go, why am I bothered by that? Why did they do that? Well, they're in here making a mess because I've been too busy doing this and I'm fussing with my own stuff and I kind of just left them to their own. I haven't really poured into them and now they're just kind of doing that. Me yelling at them probably isn't going to fix that. Why am I going to yell about something? If it's not going to fix it, it's going to make me feel awful. I'm going to have to move a ring over. It's going to leave them upset. What am I accomplishing? And so the more that I really slowed down and kind of paused in the moment before just yelling, right? I'm starting to have some control now over my words, to pause and go, why did this happen? Why am I bothered by it? Why is my response yelling? Would my yelling fix the issue? Would it solve the root of why this happened in the first place? All the answers were always no. And so it was really just this light bulb moment of, then why am I yelling? That makes no sense. I'm doing something over and over again that's not fixing anything. It's not helping anything. In fact, it's making it worse. And yet I'm expecting it to get better. That's the dumbest thing I've ever done. And so it really was that simple. I know it's not a simple thing to stop doing a habit that you've had for so long, but it really was such a simple thing by taking those rings and giving myself a physical something in front of me to go, okay, I got to switch that over every time I yell. But then in that moment, when I would get ready to open my mouth and yell, I'd see the ring and go, oh, that's right. And then I would think for just a split second about the whole process and go, maybe yelling's not the wisest response. Now, I understand that this only worked because I really took that area of self-control and self-discipline. And that really is the key piece to it. The rings didn't actually stop the yelling. The rings were just a tool to make me pause for a second so I could engage my brain versus just spouting out of my mouth. And that really made the difference. The fact that I was so convicted, the fact that I took it to prayer and was so serious, and Lord, I don't want to be that type of mom. I don't want to do that anymore. And what I will say is the blessing that came from that was so powerful and so large that it encouraged me to keep going. The more I saw my relationships with my children start to heal and improve, because instead of just yelling at them and fussing at them and, nagging at them for things that weren't right or were this or that or whatever, I started going, hey, what's going on here? Let me hear what you have to say. What's going on? Why did this happen? Why are we bickering? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that, right? I started to see these conversations come about that were very eye-opening and very healing. I started to notice that my kids stopped yelling so much, right? I was yelling all the time, so then they were yelling all the time, so then I stopped yelling, and then I started to notice they stopped yelling, right? So you start to see all these things play together and you go, hold the phone, there's something to this. Now, I haven't worn stackable rings on my fingers, and I can't tell you how many years, because it just hasn't even been something necessary to continue on in the process. It really took that area of conviction, that area of just pausing, and that area of really thinking through my actions to make this massive impact that has led me now to a place where I don't yell. I've talked about this with others and with our kids, and people have asked them, and they're like, if mom's yelled about something really crazy has happened, like something bad has happened, something has happened if we've gotten to the point where I have now raised my voice, because I do try to be a very patient and gentle mom. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to pause and think about it. And it's not because I'm this just wonderful, amazingly perfect mom, not at all. It's because I wanted to take the time to pause and listen. I didn't want to keep doing to my kids what I hated so much when I was a kid and everybody just yelled all the time. And so it really was that pausing, taking in that conviction and responding to it in a more just uplifting way, seeing the result in a positive impact from that, and then honestly just being driven to continue on and getting those positive results. So friends, I do hope that this can be a help. I know you might be thinking right now, sure lady, great story. I'm glad it worked for you. I'm still struggling. Maybe it's time to try something. Maybe order some stackable rings. I'll link some down below like the ones I got. Maybe it is something like having that physical reminder there. But more importantly, no rings needed, to start to notice when the words coming out of our mouth are not uplifting and encouraging. To pause and say, is this really the best use of my ability to speak right now? Am I speaking life? Am I encouraging? Am I truly reaching the heart of the matter? Or am I just adding fuel to a fire? Taking that first step of self-discipline to pause and reflect and then move forward accordingly makes a huge difference in our lives and the lives of those we love the most right around us, hearing the words that we're speaking all day long. I hope this can be an encouragement and uplift you all. I'm gonna go ahead and leave you a playlist with a little more on this topic that I think you'll appreciate. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. And you know, I'm encouraging you, lifting you up here as you go through this process. Bye, friends.